Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great day to be here. We're here to do the business of the people. We call this March 31st special call meeting to order. Chair recognizes Attorney Brown. You're currently muted, sir.
April 1st.
I'm sorry, April 1st.
April Fools.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor. We will request to go into executive session for the discussion of real estate, personnel, and litigation.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second to go into closed session to talk about those express matters. And the date certain is April the 1st. Voting.
Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Frenham,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott. Is she back on? Oh, she's down. Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries with Ms. Scott out.
You don't need to be on, do you?
No, it's Cal.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, thanks.
We ready to go to the breakout room?
Yes, we are ready.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, I'm trying to get back in.
Okay. I'm bringing you in now. Matthias, Jeff.
Hey,
Hey,
this is Betty, Jeff.
hey.
You got a minute?
I'm in the commission meeting thing, but they're in executive session.
All you got to do is listen. I ain't know the commissions have anything, but I just want to talk. Because I'm getting ready to approach resurrection weekend, and I definitely want, just in case I don't make it through, I want the Lord to have me up there and say, job well done. You've been faithful over a few things. I'm going to make you extra over other things.
Okay.
Jeff.
Hmm?
Okay. All right, we'll give Administrator Donald a moment to get set up here, and then we'll
Just let them know.
We'll follow.
Let me know that they had questions.
Commissioner Scott, is she still there?
All right, so let me remind everyone, we are live streaming at this point.
Okay.
You may want to hold your chatter. All right, Chair recognizes Attorney Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. We'll request a meeting to execute the closed meeting affidavit.
So move. Second.
Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
And yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
Madam Clerk. Chair recognizes Attorney Brown for the reading of the caption.
Yes, sir. There was yes sent to you and the clerk, Mr. Mayor. Oh,
All right, I am going there now. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, we request a motion to approve lease agreement between Augusta, Georgia and the Development Authority of Augusta, Georgia regarding a portion of 1285 Gordon Highway, Augusta, Georgia for a period from April 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Motion to approve. Second.
Second.
I have Mr. Clark and Mr. Hassan.
Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the test fit for 520 Fenwick Street DFAX building.
So moved.
Second.
Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve resolution to authorize acceptance of donation of property located at 2869 Central Avenue, Augusta, Georgia, from the
So
U.S.
moved.
Navy. and
Second.
authorize the mayor to execute a letter of request of said donation.
Motion by Ms. Scott and second by Ms. McKnight.
Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Time certain is 1:49 PM. The full commission meeting will proceed at 2. And if there's no other business before us, we will adjourn the special call meeting, and then we'll reconvene at 2 o'clock. For those of you that remain online, I encourage you to mute your devices, and we will go into the breakout room.
Yeah.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Now we're on the floor.
Will it come up?
All right. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
For the
Afternoon.
April 1st, 2 p.m. full commission meeting. We call this meeting to order. Chair recognizes Madam Clerk.
Thank you. We will have our invocation shared with us by Commissioner Jordan Johnson, after which Commissioner Catherine McKnight will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please stand?
Would you all join me, please? Father, we ask that we may do your will. We ask you to guard our hearts and minds so that we may do the will of your people. We ask you to give us a clean heart and a clear spirit and an open mind to be able to serve this city in a way that is honorable, in a way that is necessary, and in a way that will please and help those who need us the most. We thank you, we honor you. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Call your attention to the recognition portion of our agenda. At this time, we would like to offer our congratulations to our March 2021 Years of Service recipients. Is Ms. Ruckert available?
She is. She's actually here. She's
Okay.
actually here in our office. So if possible, if we could move that back just a little bit, because she's coordinating
Okay.
something here in this office. Apologies for that.
All right.
All right, we'll come back to that. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Call your
In
attention.
fact, Madam Clerk, what we'll do is we'll come back to that portion after we take up the consent agenda, okay?
Okay. All right. Very
Okay.
well. Call your
Thank you.
attention to the delegation portion of our agenda. Item number B, Mr. Nelson Smith regarding Blythe and Sand Hill. He's
Hi, my name is Nelson Smith. I live at 2548 Wheeler Road. We have been working in the community there in Sand Hill. And basically there is a vacant lot at 2503 Wheeler Road, We have tried to get the code enforcement to, I guess, take a position on that situation. And we haven't had any success. So the reason I have talked to some of the commissioners, but we really haven't made any progress. So because I only have 5 minutes, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, but what I was hoping to do is get the code enforcement to take a position on that vacant lot, because right now the condition that's in is causing more blight. And because I have a commercial property nearby there, that activity is destabilizing my investment. And so I'm just here to try to get some attention on that situation. Did you raise your hand?
All right, just if you'll continue, I'm going to recognize him in just a moment. I just want to give you your 5 minutes.
No, I'm good. That's it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Did you say Willis Road or Wheeler Road?
2503 Wheeler Road.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Willis is fit. I don't know who is Wheeler.
Well, I might add that it's a vacant lot that the owner lives in Atlanta and has basically given anybody and everybody permission to be on there. And what it's done is it's kind of confused the sheriff's department and other city departments on how to approach that situation.
What, Mr. Mayor, sir, if you could give your information to, I don't know who we have there. If no one else takes it up, I'll be out tomorrow, take a look at it.
Okay, I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, Commissioner from the first.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. This issue that Mr. Smith is bringing up is in my district, is Sand Hills. I have addressed this issue on a number of occasions. I think that it would be helpful if we got someone from code enforcement to maybe come on to the commission sometime at our next meeting just to address this issue. It's a lot that former Country Club and Augusta National caddies pretty much just caucus at. Actually, it's the actual spot where the commission approved a monument in their honor to be erected. So this issue is it's a complicated issue, but I would suggest that at our next commission meeting that we have someone from code enforcement come and answer specific questions around this item so that we can put this behind us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. All right, so what I've heard, Mayor Pro Tem, is that the commissioner from the first has already been working this issue. And at our next committee meeting, we'll get an update and a time to move forward with whatever action the commission is expected at that time, okay?
Okay.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you both. Madam Clerk.
Our next delegation, item number C, Mr. Robert W. Lee, regarding support from Mayor Davis to his musical message of hope.
Mr. Lee. Ms. McFarlane, is Mr. Lee there?
No, sir, he's not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 5, items 1 through 5.
All right, Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. I want to pull 3.
Okay. All right, Commissioner from the 8th. You're muted, sir.
I'm sorry. I'd like to add some items to consent.
All right, please go ahead.
I'd like to add items 30, 31,
Just a moment, sir. Can we get items 30,
31, 32, 33, 35, and 36.
All right, Commissioner from the 10.
Thank you,
you.
sir.
I would like to add item 13 to consent, please.
All right, going back to the Commissioner from the 8th.
No, I'm good. I was just saying thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Commissioner from the 1st.
I'll let the consent item number 12. Items 6 and 7.
12, 6, and 7.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Commissioner from the 7th.
I think Commissioner from the first got them. Just can we add 13 as well?
It's already there.
We have Ms. Clark asked for 13.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, Commissioner from the 6th.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add item number 20, 21, and 22. 20, 21, and 22.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner from the 2nd. You're muted, sir. Commissioner from the 2nd, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I'd like
No
to
problem.
add item number 15, please.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got a problem with the vehicles, but I'm gonna ask for 16, 17, and 18. As well as 19, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner from the 4th.
On that, add to consent item 14.
No, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Sias.
Hold on a minute. Hold on, Commissioner. Hold on.
I want to make a comment about 14.
Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner from the 4th, are you complete?
I was gonna say vote, but I feel there's an objection to 14.
Yeah, there
Well,
is.
All right, no problem. Now also, 27, please. I'm sorry, 28, not 27, 28.
Okay. So on administrative services to the Commissioner from the 6th, item number 14, this happens annually. You may remember this, where the individual items and the total exceeds the purchase amount. So it's a standard fare item, just as a reminder. All right, Commissioner
Okay.
from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, we got a Reginald Martin. Is my familiar with him?
I'm not, but I made a broad assumption, which is always the lowest form of living, that he's standing in for Attorney Wayne Brown. That's what I think.
Okay.
That's exactly. I'm staying in for General Counsel, Mr. Brown.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, no.
I think, to your point, Commissioner, pause for a moment, please. I think what that means is we're going to give Attorney Brown an opportunity to introduce Mr. Martin to us and anyone else that we don't know at this point.
And I apologize, Mr. Mayor, to my colleagues. Are you waiting on Mr. Brown now? Are you talking, you want me to hold up?
No, you again, I'm going to recognize you if you'll just give me a minute. I know you're
Go
moving
ahead.
fast today. All right, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 14, I apologize to my colleague. I should have mentioned the first time, but procurement has made contact with me, actually to pull number 14. There's some information that needs to be corrected, so they actually pull it from the agenda. And so that's what I was attempting.
Are we going to move forward with it today? Or are you sending this back to committee?
We send it back to committee.
Okay, well, let's do that. So we're going to consent this back to the next full committee meeting.
Yes, sir. And add number 34 to the consent.
Okay.
Motion to approve all consent agenda items added.
Second.
Can we get a review?
Somebody had to ask for a review.
Madam Clerk.
Okay. Our consent agenda consists of items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 12, 13, 14, back to committee, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 28, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner from the First State Inquirer.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to take item number 26 and refer it back to committee or refer it to committee.
All right, so we'll add that to the consent agenda,
Thank you.
referring it to committee. All right, voting.
I need a motion.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, we did have one from Mr. Phantom and Mr. Garrett.
We
Is that
did,
right?
but he amended it just then, Madam Clerk. He amended it.
Okay,
Ms. Bond, I think, is it 13 on the agenda? The consent?
It is on the agenda.
it's on the consent. Yes, sir. Okay, we're voting now, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Clark,
Yes. Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Phantom,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams. Out, Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That
I'm
motion-
sorry, yes, ma'am.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously.
Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item 3, rather, item 3.
Okay. Item number 3 is a motion to approve the appointment of Ross Trulock to the Board of Zoning Appeals, Sherry Brucknow, Public Facilities Board, the Tree Commission, Keith Henry, Augusta Canal Authority, Russ Gamble, Augusta Transit Citizen Advisory Board, Christine Lowry, Riverfront Development Board, Matt Murphy, Planning Commission, George Locke McKnight, LA Green, Housing Community Development Citizen Advisory Board, Small Business Advisory Board, Collis Ivy, representing District 3.
Hey, Madam Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem, you're recognized for this item.
Yes, sir. I just want to get straight to the point. Bishop Green was the District 5 person in an attempt to kind of mix it up and get some new blood on that particular committee. I submitted another name and asked that Bishop Green not be on there. of course, he had a conversation with the commissioner from the 3rd, and he ends up back on here. I don't want to, make an enemy out of this, but I would like to make a motion. Commissioner from the 3rd, do you have another name that you could put in place of L.A. Green?
Mayor Pro Tem, I spoke yesterday with Mrs. Bonner, and we will go there with somebody. If whatever happens here today, we will do something about it on the next meeting agenda.
Okay, so I would like to make the motion that we approve everyone on this list with the exception of L.A. Green. That's my motion.
Second.
Was that Mr. Clark?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. That's to approve item number 3, deleting Mr. L.A. Green.
That's correct, Madam Clerk.
Okay. We ready to vote, sir?
Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franham,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Scott,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries with Ms. McKnight and Ms. Scott voting no.
Madam Clerk,
Yes, sir.
we'll go top to bottom.
Okay, we're back.
Public Services.
Yes, sir. Just give me a minute here to get things back in order. Well, is Ms. Rickard available to do the recognitions, or are we gonna?
No, not yet. We're gonna come back to it. That's why I moved on. We'll come back to it.
Okay. We'll go to the public service portion with our alcohol petitions. Ms. Kathy Jackson, I believe, is in the public square with Ms. McFarland.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and Administrator. We have alcohol number 21-9, a request by Stephen A. Brooks for a consumption on premises liquor, beer, and wine license to be used in connection with First Watch Daytime Cafe located at 630 Crane Creek Drive, Suite 405. There will be Sunday sales. This application has been approved by Planning and Development, Sheriff Department, and there are no objections to the application.
Ms. Kathy, can you go ahead and read the next series, number 9?
Well, Mr. Mayor, we need the applicant
Yeah.
to give their information for the
Yes,
record.
ma'am.
And
Madam
then
Clerk, if you would have them proceed like you are saying, where she reads the caption and then has the person introduced, and let's go
Yes,
through
sir.
all of them so we can vote on them in mass.
Yes, sir, okay. Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Stephen A. Brooks. I reside at 1062 Clear Spring Drive, Charleston, South Carolina, 29412.
Okay. Ms. Jackson, if we could have applicant number 9.
Okay, a request by Eric Kinlaw for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with the Hive located at 215 10th Street.
No objectors, ma'am?
I'm sorry. This application has been approved by Planning and Development and the Sheriff Department. There were no objections to the application.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Eric Kinlaw. I reside at 404 Brookside Court, Augusta, Georgia, 30904.
And we need to make a correction on item 9. That is District 9 opposed to 10.
Okay, we have alcohol number 21-11, a request by Yusuf Ali M. Logat for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Neighborhood 1 located at 2940 Inwood Drive. This application was approved by Planning and Development and the Sheriff Department. There were no objections to the application.
Good afternoon. My name is Yusuf Ali Lorgat. I live 311 Silver Creek Run, Lawrenceville, Georgia, 30044.
We have alcohol number 21-12, a request by Yusuf Ali M. Lagat for an on-premise consumption liquor, beer, and wine license to be used in connection with Sport Bar and Grill located at 2015 Central Avenue. This application has been approved by Planning and Development and the Sheriff Department. There were no objection to the application.
My name is Yusuf Ali Lorgat. I live 311 Silver Creek Run, Lawrenceville, Georgia, 30044.
Move to approve 8 through 11.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are we okay to vote, Ms. Bonner?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's vote.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Son,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
All right, where you want to go from here, Ms. Bonner?
Thank you.
We can go to item number 23.
Sounds like a winner.
That will be an update from the Homeless Task Force Subcommittee. Commissioner Jordan Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and to my colleagues. This item was requested to be put on the agenda just for a simple update on appointments to this committee that the commission formed. We have had the pleasure of working alongside the Sheriff's Office to come up with strategies on how to best serve our homeless population. And what we came up with was the understanding that members of the task force that we appointed, Commissioner Williams and I, also served on the task force that Chief Clayton headed up with the Sheriff's Office. And so, out of the vein of being efficient, we wanted to make sure that we weren't double working folks and asking them to do the same thing. So Commissioner Williams and I have agreed with Chief Clayton to appoint the overlapping members, or members who don't overlap from the Sheriff's Task Force, to be a part of the subcommittee that this body has appointed. And what we will provide to this body is a full list of members of that commission, of that committee, newly appointed members of that committee, for your review. And so that's the update that we were hoping to get out today. And with that, that's all that I have. Thank you.
All right, do we have any questions? Any comments? All right, where are we going from here, Ms. Bonner?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Hang on a sec. Yes, sir.
did we talk about the addendum agenda?
We didn't. We didn't.
We haven't gotten there yet. No, sir.
Oh, okay. Oh, so we did add it though. Okay.
No, we haven't addressed it yet. Okay. Let me ask you, are you going to receive Commissioner Johnson's update without objection? Receive it
Yes,
as
ma'am.
information
No, we just take it as information,
without objection.
without objection. All right. Do we need to go ahead and add that addendum agenda, Ms. Bonner?
You can do it now or when you get ready to address it, however you.
We'll go ahead and add it, but we'll keep going with 24.
Okay.
So if that's okay without objection, add the addendum agenda. No problems. All right, without objection.
All right.
Let's pick up on 24, Ms. Bonner.
Okay. Item number 24, discuss the installation of signs on both north and south side of Jimmy Dias Parkway between Riceboro Road and Gordon Highway to honor those who have served and serviced the Fort Gordon Military Base Also, the possible honorary naming of the corridor, requested by Commissioner John Clark and Catherine McKnight.
Okay, Commissioner Clark, and I see the mayor's back. Commissioner Clark.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioner McKnight and I both have been contacted by several people representing the want and need to honor one of the largest employers and one of the largest service bases anywhere in the United States. And the only thing that we're asking for is just something that's real simple, real plain, but it would honor all of the personnel, past and present, that has served at the military installation here in Augusta, Georgia. So we're just asking for permission and an approval to put 2 signs going into Fort Gordon, 2 signs on the side of the road coming out of Fort Gordon between Gordon Highway and Wrightsboro Road, which is in District 3, Super District 10. And if it please everyone, just simply on the signs, it would have Fort Gordon Honors Way, honoring all personnel, past and present. I think that's a simple request, that it would be a dedicated request and show our military personnel and the people that service that base exactly how much Augusta, Georgia and the citizens appreciate them. So I request and make a motion that that be granted.
Second.
Any other discussion? Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. My question is, I guess for Ms. Bonner, the administrator, like in the past when we've done this, what was the process of getting the sign approval from a design and everything when we've done this once before? And does this meet like all the guidelines that the commission approved before on the signage, I guess?
Yes, Ms. Bonner, would you like me to go first?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so we have looked at this, and it does seem to follow at least the last 2 times that you've approved it, which is why, we allowed it to come forth. Met with the directors, nothing out of the ordinary has been provided related to this item. So I believe it's ready to go forth. But if there's any apprehension, we have another directors meeting that is coming up before the next commission meeting. I could always go back and look at it again and make sure we answer that question.
All right.
I think we just have a lot of discussion about renaming things, and I just want to make sure whatever we have in process is, we're following it, number one, and then as far as like the image and how we want it to look and feel, we're kind of uniform across the city, I guess was the other thing too. So,
well, Commissioner, to that end, I think that's a great question, and it doesn't seem to be time sensitive. I'd welcome an opportunity to go back and make sure that this one, as well as any future ones, fall under the same process. Yeah. So if you don't mind, we could just hold this one to the next commission meeting. I would leave it at the commission level, and then that way we could approve it and then report out if there are any differences.
Okay, Mr. Franham, you have any other comments? Okay, we got Commissioner Sammy Sias, and then we got Commissioner Johnson. The mayor, I hand it back over to you. No, we got Commissioner from the 3rd after Johnson. Mayor, I hand it back over to you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to say I don't have anything against this idea. However, I would like to see it come back with the right design and what they're talking about before we approve it. I would like that this thing today will be the consent to move forward on it and have it come back for final approval when there's a design or whatever you want to say, what size the sign should be, because we have to also realize that Jimmy Dias Parkway is a state road. So any sign that we want to put out there will also have to be approved by GDOT. So, and I think the administrator is probably aware of that. So it's not quite as simple as us saying, let's do this. It also, we have to go through the GDOT process as well. So I think this today should be a consent to move forward with the idea and then get those things straight and come back for final approval. Thank you.
Johnson. Mr. Johnson.
I think he's right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I want to start by saying I think this is a great idea. Coming from a family that, have plenty members of the military, former and current, I think this is a great idea, especially being that we're we're living in a city, Augusta, that's known for for Fort Gordon. But I have a question for my colleague from the 10th or the 3rd, anyone who may be able to answer. Do we have a cost estimate as to how much this would cost us to do?
Not at this time. That's the reason why it's going, would be to go forward.
All righty.
They're saying this.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Mr. Donald
Commissioner,
has his hand up, sir.
Commissioner from the 3rd.
So I say, so what we're saying is that we will come back at the next meeting, trying to get a price up and some kind of sketch. Is that what we're gonna do?
Yeah,
The administrator.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I
Yes,
think he's
ma'am.
asking to add to his first comments regarding this project.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is that as we looked at it, and maybe I wasn't clear, but I think Commissioner Sias hit the nail on the head. What we're trying to say is the process is kind of undefined. And so if you're just asking for consent and there's no cost yet, no design, he's saying put those steps consented and then put those steps in, because that's kind of what you've done in the past. You've approved it to where folks can look at the signage, the cost, the design, and then you're approving one thing at one time. It sounds like everybody's saying that, but you haven't defined, is that your motion on how to move forward?
With GDOT getting approval.
Correct, yes. But they will have to approve it before you give final approval. That's right. But they all seem to be saying the same thing, just parts of it. Different people are saying parts, but I think Commissioner Sias said the whole process at one time.
Excuse me.
Hey, hang on a second. Go ahead, Commissioner Clark.
Commissioner,
go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Sias.
Yeah.
Will you please make this proper substitute motion?
I was about to do that as soon as I can get recognized.
To move forward with this. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Sias, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna make a substitute motion. I move that we approve consent to move forward to evaluate this idea, get the cost estimates designed, and also request GDOT approval to establish those 4 signs along Jimmy Dias Parkway, honoring Fort Gordon and those who have served.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All right. Any other
Ms.
discussion?
Scott? Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Scott.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, we're voting, Ms. Bonner.
Okay. Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Son,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
And yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously.
Pro Tem.
Yes, sir.
Can we jump on?
All right.
Real quick. Oh, okay. Mayor, you back on?
Yeah, I'm back on.
Go ahead.
Let me mention something before we go too far. And this is relevant to the debate you just had. The commissioner from the first, he moved item 26 back to committee during the consent process, and yet we have item 25, which could be next. To your point, to the commissioner from the fourth, you raised excellent points about how to move with 24, but item number 25 could very well have addressed all of that from a best practices standpoint and laid out the foundation for how you move forward with any road names and addressing. So I just want to highlight that.
But
let me ask
I'm
you
not
this, Mr.
comfortable
Mayor.
with 25, Mayor.
You're not comfortable with 25?
No, sir, not at this point.
Okay, well, then we absolutely won't be waiving the second reading then. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead, sir. State your inquiry.
Well, I was gonna ask, 25 didn't go through committee either, did it? It did go through committee?
No, sir, we did.
I can't speak to that.
No, sir, it hasn't gone through committee yet.
So
Are
can I
we
make,
through with 24 yet?
No,
Okay, we
I thought
jumping
you just
around.
voted on that.
We
we
did.
just voted on 24.
I haven't, okay. Yeah, we voted on it, but we never gave the official recording of the vote.
Madam
Okay,
Clerk, you're
go ahead.
recognized. Proceed with that, Madam Clerk.
Item number 24, substitute motion carries unanimously.
Okay. All right, so we're jumping to 25. So can I make a motion that we send it back to committee, Mr. Mayor?
Second.
Send 25 to committee.
I'd like to make a substitute motion, Mr. Mayor.
And, okay.
You don't even have a second on the regular motion yet, sir.
Well, you got a second from the
Mr. Garrett, he did,
But go ahead, if he's got a motion, go ahead.
Commissioner from the 6th, you're recognized now.
I'll make a motion to deny. To deny 25.
Second.
who was that? Mr. Sias?
No, the commissioner from the 8th has already seconded a previous motion. So
This is a
proper for him
substitute
to-
motion. I'm waiting on the second for the substitute. I was interrupted. I had several.
It was Commissioner Sias.
Sias, yes, I thought so.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, you've got a substitute motion with a proper second. That is to deny number 25. Voting.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Franum,
Yes.
Mr. Garrett. Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, Mr. Hassan,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries unanimously to deny.
All right, Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 4th for an inquiry, state your inquiry.
Thank you, sir. I have at least our on the agenda item number 2. I would ask if we could go to that. I've asked our chamber, our Metro Chamber of Commerce director to be on standby to make some comments. I would request, with your consent, that we could go to that item, please. Try to say that as nice as I can.
We saw the struggle.
I ain't studying y'all.
All right, Madam Clerk, the commissioner from the 4th requested item number 2 from the addendum agenda, other business. We have Ms. Parr in the room.
Okay. Would you like me to read the caption or you're okay, Mr. Sun?
No, I'll let you read the caption.
Okay. Discuss and thank the citizens of Augusta Richmond County for their trust and support in passing SPLOST 8. Comments from Ms. Sue Parr, President and CEO of the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce.
Commissioner from the 4th.
Thank you, sir. I have some comments I want to make, but I want to start that off with our business community, and one of the advocates in our Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Sue Parr, the President and CEO. I would like to hear her comments about SPLOST 8 and her comments to the citizens of Augusta. If we would, sir.
Yeah, Chair recognizes President Parr from the Metro Chamber.
Thank you, Mayor Davis and members of the commission and Administrator Donald. It's a pleasure to be with you here today to offer a few comments regarding the recent passage of SPLOST 8. As I shared with many of you, and I'll be very brief because I know you still have some agenda items ahead of you, just want to really take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your leadership in developing a list of projects that really resonated with voters. As we were out there educating the community, we found that we were able to really highlight a lot of great projects. You know, I don't know that many people understand that there was over $900 million worth of requests. And of course, we all wish we had $900 million to meet all of those needs, but it was your responsibility to cull these projects down to a manageable number and that we could fund over 5 years. So again, we just want to take the opportunity to thank you for that. You know, there was 45 projects funded. When we were out talking with the business community and voters, we emphasized the fact that we felt that it struck a really good balance between what we refer to as sort of the meat and potatoes of SPLOST programs, because they address infrastructure such as drainage, road surfacing, public safety. But there was also a really significant nod towards those projects that will continue our future economic growth, particularly investments that you made in the James Brown Arena and a lot of our recreational opportunities throughout the county. And of course, just the list of the 45 projects really touching so many citizens throughout our county. I also want to mention that there were other organizations beyond the Augusta Metro Chamber of Commerce that went back to their stakeholders and their volunteer board members to really look at this list and add their voice along with our voice in terms of advocating for the passage of this referendum. They included the Augusta Economic Development Authority, the Downtown Development Authority, Augusta Tomorrow, as well as the Augusta Sports Council. So it was not just the chamber, there was definitely a team effort out there, of course, with all of you, and a great partnership to make sure that our voters had good education on what these projects were going to do. You know, I want to also mention, just in closing, that you know, it's never too early to start thinking about SPLOST 9. You know, I think it's great that we can celebrate right now and with a almost 72% voter approval that we received on the referendum. But as we were out there talking with voters and the business community, you know, their thoughts are already going towards what's going to be in the next package. And there was a large gap, you know, over $700 million worth of projects that weren't funded. I know your department heads put a lot of time and thought and energy into developing some of those ideas. So again, we would just urge that it's never too early. And, you know, hopefully that can lead to an even better package and even more money when we do this again in 5 years. You know, the whole idea behind SPLOST is that it does feed on itself. Those investments create greater economic impact, especially when these investments are being made by nearly 50% of residents who don't even live here in this community. So in order to keep these investments going and maximize their value today, we want to be sure that we're looking at tomorrow's investments and how we can maximize that benefit. So with that, Commissioner Size, thank you very much for the invitation to attend your meeting today. And again, thank you all of you for your support, for, again, your leadership in developing a list that resonated with voters. And we are very happy that we have a partnership between the business community and municipal government. It is very, very important that we have that to make sure that our community moves forward in the best fashion. So thank you again.
Mayor, may I continue?
Please do.
Thank you, sir. And again, Ms. Paul, I want to thank you for your great work, and your organization and all the other businesses that are part of this program and working with the leadership of the city. But I want to say an addition, and I think starting in January 2015, under the president and extending membership of other commissioners, the citizens of Augusta has entrusted us, have given us great trust in dealing with the finances of this city. For an example, we passed Splice 7, which was about $220 million or so. We also got Splice 8 passed. We also got the second tier passed, and we're still working from the first tier. Now we have the second tier on the way. We're still finishing up Splice 7, and we have Splice 8 approved. We have the sanitary sewer connection program, and we have the stormwater program. And I say all that to say this: our citizens, with the great trust we have everything now we need to make this city a fabulous place and a great place for folks to live, work, and play. So I challenge my colleagues, Mayor included, all of us, the new administrator and the staff of Augusta, to let's take these resources that the citizens have entrusted us with and do the absolute best we can for the city of Augusta. We have the resources now. There's no excuse not to get this stuff done and show out the public that their confidence is well placed in us, to include the new arena. There was a lot went on that, but when we settled down, we found a place for the arena. So I just want to challenge my colleagues again and thank the public for the great trust they put in us to handle the finances and resources of this city. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Again, thank you both.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem, you're recognized.
Did he help Hassan?
Yeah, we're working on it right now. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item number 1 on the addendum agenda, and then we'll come to number 3 on the addendum agenda.
Muted, Ms. Bonner. Okay.
Yes, sir. We at 27 now?
Item 1, addendum agenda, Madam Clerk, and then number 3, addendum agenda.
Okay. Item 1 is to authorize the development of a blight ordinance for the purpose of defining blighted properties and manage blight mitigation, providing Augusta, Richmond County the ability to purchase, remediate, and or dispose of blighted properties.
Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We voted last year sometime to create a blight ordinance. Our administrator, McDonald, came on and he brought to light, some blight ordinances in Savannah, Macon, and South Fulton. So we have something to take a look at, but what we're trying to do is trying to put some teeth in our blight ordinances. And with what we have, I think we have exactly what we need. The ordinance that we're trying to write, someone would go out, take a look at the property. They would determine whether or not it's blighted. They'll put them on the list. They'll give them opportunity to straighten it out. If not, then we'll tax them. And I'm not sure exactly once we read this, some places tax them up to 7 times whatever their taxation is at this point in time. And then if they still don't do what they're supposed to do, then we can take the properties and then we can sell them. I look back at Macon, Georgia, I think 3 or 4 months ago, they sold about 200 properties starting at $400. And what we want to do is get the properties in the hands of people who will go out and take care of them. It's not necessarily to make a whole lot of money, but what we're also doing is that this particular blight ordinance has what you call a revolving loan. And so with that revolving loan, let's say that taxes are $1,000 and we add some taxes onto it, anything above that 1,000 would go into the revolving loan. And anytime we sell homes, it would go into the revolving homes, and that would give us more money to tear down blighted properties and homes that need to be torn down. Administrator Donald, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you got it, sir. I think the key is that the commission authorized Mayor Pro Tem to go back and do some research and look at various opportunities. The three that we looked at the closest, although we did look at some others, were the ones that he mentioned, and a small group that included all of the stakeholders. He did include staff and others who would be impacted. And what we came up with is the making model as the key, but using components, the best parts of the other ordinance to create what would be Augusta's ordinance. And so if given the approval, the mayor pro tem would then work with legal and those other stakeholders to bring back a draft for the commission to approve through 2 readings.
And let me say this. Let me say this. What they're doing now, as far as tearing down houses or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
But what this seeks to do is to make sure that if we have someone who's not taking care of the property, for example, if we've got somebody in California who owns some land and maybe they have people in the house, they may not have people in the house, but they have blighted property. Our aim here is to make sure we have teeth in this situation where we can go in, look at people, look at properties, and eventually, if they don't do what they're supposed to do, we can take the property away from them and get it in the hands of people who will take care of it.
Mayor Pro Tem, will you entertain a motion to adopt a draft and bring it back in 14 days?
I'll make that motion, yes, sir.
Okay, now's a good time.
Isn't that a little quick?
No, we've been talking about it for almost 2 years.
Right.
The first time the Mayor Pro Tem, when he came on board initially, we talked about it and looked specifically at Macon, and even previous staff who are no longer here, they shared data and input at that time. And so 14 days is certainly sufficient enough using the models that they already have to bring a draft back to us.
Can we do 30?
Well, you can do whatever you vote on, but 14 days is certainly sufficient.
Let's do 30, so we'll be okay, Mr. Mayor. So I'm in my motion to do it in 30.
Second.
All right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just 2 quick questions. Will this ordinance include a number of properties that one buyer may purchase? And will it also include a number as to how long they have to start improving the property once they purchase it?
Mr. Donald, I'll
go. So those types of actions are included. Some of those things, not all of it. I think when you look at the other examples in the other cities, you don't necessarily limit that, because that's post-acquisition or post-penalty. And so that's more on the procedural side. So I don't think you would do that. I think you would basically just order us as a commission as we work on the procedures on how we offset the properties or offload the properties. You give us directions separately. It would not be within the blight ordinance, the original blight ordinance itself.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Hold on. Commissioner from the 10th, are you done?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 9th. Ms. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question about the Laney, Walker, Bethlehem Center area, and are those areas of historic significance going to be protected? Or are you going to address it in this ordinance?
So may I answer that, Mayor Pro Tem? I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump right in.
You may answer that, Administrator Donald.
Yeah, so that's, yes, ma'am. And I know you were one of the main folks who were involved in starting to create that. And that was one of the concerns. And so, yes, ma'am, it would be within the actual blight ordinance. I've sent that small group what do you call it, the concerns that you had. We sent those out to the tax commissioner, tax assessor, the code enforcement, legal, and so they have all of those things, and those concerns would be included in the draft that legal creates.
Thank you.
May I make a comment, Mr. Mayor?
They to inquire.
Yeah, and I just want to let everybody know, when you look at certain properties, whether it's dilapidated, whether it's in what you call the poor part of town or what have you, there's no telling who owns this land, and they just buy it and they hold on to it. They don't clean it up. They don't make it look good. And what we're looking to do with this is we want people to go take a look at it and say, hey, that's blighted, and we need to do something with this. Then we start to tax them. They still don't do what they're supposed to do. We're going to take it and we're going to sell it to somebody who's going to take care of it.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, to keep from singing the chorus over and over, I just want to just briefly say thank you to this body for, and especially to Commissioner Williams, Bobby Williams, Mayor Pro Tem Williams, for you know, for caring enough about this issue. You know, if you go into District 1, any direction, you see blight. I can get you on the bus, can take you on a tour of the district, and you'll see it. You can see real-time blight up close and personal. So this is really transformative, and it has the potential to transform our communities and to really show the community that we care about this issue. So again, I just want to, like I said, just to keep from singing the song over and over, I want to just publicly thank my colleagues for caring enough, especially for the sponsor of this, Commissioner Williams, for caring enough to move the ball forward on something that we've been tackling, well, trying to tackle for quite some time. So kudos to the commission, and I look forward to seeing this to fruition.
All right, thank you. Voting. Madam Clerk, you're muted.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes.
Mr. Hassan,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That would be a compliment. Tomorrow's Good Friday, so we're gonna keep it at that. That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mayor, are we back on the regular agenda, or are we?
Item number 3, Madam Clerk.
On the addendum agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Discuss James Brown birthday block party.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and to my colleagues. We are, I'm really excited about bringing this before the body. Normally this would go through the committee cycle to have some details fleshed out, and certainly we can still talk about how to get to that point. But because time is of the essence, I want to just give a little bit of backstory and then pass off the floor to Coco Rubio, who's over in the chambers, to speak on this item. We have an opportunity to honor the Godfather's soul in Augusta, and not just honor the Godfather's soul, but we have an opportunity to do it in a way that really would make him proud, that would make his family proud, that would get people into downtown Augusta. We are coming off of the heels of one of the worst public health crises in the history of this nation. We're not out of the woods altogether, but our downtown took a hit. And we want to get more people into downtown. We want to get more folks into the businesses in downtown Augusta, especially on that 9th Street corridor where you have quite a few businesses that just recently opened. And we want to do it in a safe and an effective way. But again, because time is of the essence, the Godfather Soul's birthday is coming up rather quickly. And because we don't have a meeting up next, I would like for my colleagues to consider action on this item today. But I will pass over the floor to Coco Rubio, who's in the chambers, to speak more to this item, if I can, Mr. Mayor.
All right, so let's pause for just a moment. We're going to give the commissioner from the 6th an opportunity to. All right. All right, very good. All right, I think he's all set. I'm muted him. All right, Chair recognizes Coco Rubio to speak to the matter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, and Ms. Bonner. Thank you for adding me. I know it was last minute. My name is Coco Rubio, 755 McClure Drive, Augusta, Georgia, 30909. And I'm here to ask the city to consider my proposal to honor James Brown on his birthday weekend by allowing me to block off half a block of James Brown Boulevard between Broad Street and Jones Street, similar to the way it was blocked off for the mural dedication back in October. And this is so that we can have the first ever James Brown birthday block party. Some of my ideas for this would be to, I was really inspired by the mural dedication and the public artwork that is on that wall now. And that would be a good way to highlight that and to highlight 9th Street. Like Commissioner Johnson mentioned that you have some new businesses there like Laziza, which just recently opened up, Mediterranean Grill, and also Vance's Bakery Bar, which is right behind it. And there's also the new bike rental place opened up on 9th Street. And I just see that block just kind of, those businesses have moved to downtown Augusta and really haven't been able to experience, some downtown activities. So this would be a good way to do that. Taking pictures in front of the mural. I've talked to the artist who did the mural, and he would screen a little documentary on the making of the mural. And that's something we would like to let people kind of see how the mural was done. Various local DJs, we would have a little sound system there and some DJs playing music by James Brown and music inspired by James Brown. We would also have I've talked to local artists, many of them who've been involved with the new public art in downtown Augusta, would be doing some like a pop-up art exhibit, again, probably James Brown influenced, just to have on that block so public can come through, they can hear some good music, they can see some art, they can see the mural, and just kind of a little sense of community that I think is needed right now. Pushing also the public art that's throughout downtown, something that's happened during the pandemic, which I think is really awesome. Also the James Brown Walk that the CVB has been involved with, and just kind of a way to remember Mr. Brown on his birthday weekend. And we weren't able to do anything last year, of course, and thinking the time is right to consider doing this. And that's really my plan.
All right. Commissioner from the 1st and Coco, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that you brought this matter before the commission for discussion purposes. And there certainly are a series of hands. Commissioner from the 7th wants to say something. Commissioner from the 4th wants to say something. But might I suggest the following in light of the work that's been being done already? You have a downtown events task force that's already in place, that's working through how we manage these types of events and their functions, to include the discussion around Saturday market. Those things are all being marshaled or shepherded through that very important task force, especially in light of where we are as we continue to navigate our way through this global pandemic and how we best do events. So I want to just highlight that and suggest that that's probably a very good landing place to try to marshal this forward, Commissioner from the 1st, so that you've got a group that's actively working on how best to put these types of events on and do it safely and raise that bar. So let me do this. I'm going to come back to you, Commissioner, from the 1st to speak to the close of this matter. I'm going to the 7th and then the 4th in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm kind of going where you just spoke. Just to inform the commission that there was an event that was going to happen where they were going to block off a street in the same area of the shared space in Masters Week, and the Sheriff's Department denied it when the city approved it because of lack of being in Masters Week, lack of work, and because of COVID. I was wondering, my question was kind of, can we get an update from the committee? Does the administrator or anybody know where the committee is? Because lots of people are asking about having events at the Commons, and I think we've got to have that discussion. And then my other comment would be, basically the commission can approve, but the Sheriff's Department can deny? I mean, that creates a tough situation in the community if that's the way it is. And I fully support this, and Coco doing an amazing job in our community promoting it in this event. But I would hate for the city to promote it and say yay, and then the Sheriff's Department say no. Like it feels like some of the things that we've tried to promote, the sidewalk ordinance we promoted, the sheriff said no. So I think we got to get on a better foot with the Sheriff's Department in this community to open up this community more in a safe way, obviously. So I'd ask, is there a way to know what's the update from the committee, where they're at?
Let me, before the administrator speaks, let me just pointedly say that, again, as it relates to sidewalk, streets, those are on the purview of the commission. I don't want us to get confused about that. The Sheriff's Agency is a partner in terms of providing law enforcement. He is in fact the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in the county, but the streets, sidewalks, and these activities are under the purview of the Augusta Commission. And so there cannot be any, quote, unilateral saying we can't do something or can do it. So I want to unequivocally state that, and we'll address that as we move forward. All right, Administrator Don.
Yes, so Mayor, I think you were correct, because that's the comment that I was going to make, is that the commission does make that decision. But to Commissioner Frantum's point, is that there are, the sheriff does have to provide support for us, which we also cannot direct him to do. That's a challenge that the committee has identified. And Director McDowell is actually from the staff side kind of chairing that task force, and he's in the waiting room. And so if he could be let in, Commissioner, he can give you that update that you may need. I'll tell you that they're about a week away, or I guess the next commission meeting away from being able to give an update on those initial findings and recommendations, but he may be able to provide some insights now if you don't want to wait until that time.
I mean, I think it's important, just because we got to get this ball moving. And I would hate for us to agree to it and the Sheriff's Department come back and tell them we can't have it if we don't have this good dialogue of where we're at and what's going on.
Yeah, and I do think that they are refusing to provide, or I don't want to say refusing, but I don't believe that they're providing that service right now based on COVID. But Mr. Director McDowell, I know you are in, I believe they've let you in. Do you have any additional comments and insights related to the task force's work and when that recommendation is coming forth?
Yes, sir, Mr. Administrator. The commission, that task force met again this morning. They are finalizing some recommendations that we'll have back to the administrative office. Originally, we were trying to get some recommendation by April the 16th, just in lieu of the Masters Week as well. But also, now that the governor has hinted that he's going to loosen restrictions, that task force had to pivot in some areas. But I still anticipate them having a recommendation back to the body by the 16th of April, as it relates to our opening up our downtown and our special events. As you're well aware of, Mr. Administrator, we've had the Saturday market for a couple of Saturdays now. So that gave us a great opportunity to have an event that we can kind of look at the do's and don'ts from. So we have some good data and information on how best to move forward with this, but also we want to be cognitive of the fact of what the governor is and what we anticipate the governor doing, and how that also impacts that whole plan that the task force will be bringing back before the body.
That's what I thought. And Commissioner Frantum, I will tell you at that April 16th, the goal is not to just come with recommendations or whatnot, but his recommendations on how we can open safely, basically. How can we have, these are the 3 to 5 steps to have public events safely. And it would be very simple for the commission at that time to approve, or if you do not believe we're ready, to deny.
And I appreciate that. I just think that, again, other municipalities are open up in safe ways, as well as their CDC guidelines of how you have to have these events. If the promoter are implementing them, then we shouldn't be a deterrence. We should be open and try to bring things back down, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned. So thank you.
Fully agree.
From the 7 members of the commission, I want to unequivocally say a few things. The message is clear for us in the city of Augusta, and that is we have a responsibility to provide for the health, welfare, and safety of all of our citizens. Just 2 nights ago, we had one of our U.S. senators here who talked about the importance of, even in light of supply being made available and us vaccinating more people in the U.S. and certainly here in Augusta, Richmond County, we have to continue to do the 3 W's: wear a mask, watch our distance, and at the same time, continue to wash our hands while encouraging everybody that we know to go and get vaccinated. We cannot lose sight of this. The governor, as we understand it right now, is self-quarantining because he, after getting his Johnson & Johnson shot, came into close contact with someone who was positive for COVID. COVID is still real. Just on Monday of this week, we had an uptick in cases. I don't want any of us to lose sight of that. We're doing those things, we're taking the appropriate precautions, and even in light of the governor hinting around this notion of opening the state of Georgia back up, we are in Augusta, and we're still hovering around a little under 5% positivity rate. And so as we are thoughtful in the approach that the task force is taking, it is with an expectation, as Administrator Donald said, that when they come back, this is not just a document that says, well, here's the recommendations, but these are recommendations that are implementable. And these are the things that will be expected of any groups, social or otherwise, who will stand up events, whether it be on the commons, whether it be in other public spaces, that they will have to comport with those things if we're going to successfully and safely have events that are, quote, large gatherings in our city, sans us having events that turn into super spreader events. And I'm going to say that until I'm blue in the face, and it won't be because of the virus. I'm going to the commissioner from the 4th, and then the 8th, and then we're going to make our way back around to the 3rd. Okay? Commissioner from the 4th.
Thank you, sir. The questions and comments that I had have all about 99% been answered. I just wanted to say to my colleague from the 1st, and I appreciate you making a note of what you consider the urgency of this matter, because as it broke away from the committee protocol, I just want to say thank you for that, for notifying us the reason why it was that urgent. And I think it's critical that we as a commission not allow any agency or anyone to hamstring this city when it comes to what we intend to do or need to do for our citizens. So I think we just need to always be cognizant of outside agencies, but as the mayor stated very eloquently, those final decisions remain with this commission. Thank you.
Commissioner from the 8th, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, in regards to this conversation and the sense of urgency to hopefully have this event take place, you know, I guess one of the questions that I want to ask is, you know, I see flyers out there where at even our own parks, we're having a voter registration drive tomorrow. It's an outside event. It's taking place, you know, socially distanced, all the precautions put in place. I'm just not trying to understand why we couldn't proceed with this outdoor event as well. And you know, just to make sure that everybody goes with the same WWW guidelines that the mayor talked about. So in that conversation, you know, we're comparing something that's happening on tomorrow, I make a motion that we approve to allow this event to take place.
Second that motion.
All right, I didn't hear a proper second, so that motion fails.
No, sir, I second the motion.
Okay, all right, I didn't hear that. All right, who was that?
Mr. Johnson.
All right, very well. All right, everybody to suspend. I'm going to the commissioner from the third.
Mr. Mayor, I was trying just to get y'all's attention. I was trying to get Commissioner Scott back in, but I see she's in. So that's what I was trying to get everybody's attention, try to get her in.
Thank you very much. We didn't realize that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go back now to the commissioner from the first. Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe if we could, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Rubio had his hand up.
All right, Coco, if you can.
Yeah, I just wanted to let y'all know a little bit more in depth about what I've been doing with this. I did meet with Yolanda a couple of weeks ago, and I was going to meet with Mr. McDowell, who I haven't had the privilege to meet yet. He wasn't able to attend the meeting. And I talked to Yolanda about COVID and about the Saturday market and how the Saturday market is opening up and how they're doing it. And I was given a copy of their protocol, and it would be something that would be done on this block to make sure there's signage, make sure there's hand sanitation, social distancing, and also as far as security, I've talked to Walter Ashley about having 2 officers on site, one at each entrance point, coming from Reynolds Street and from Broad Street. So I have been, I'm very aware of that, and trying to just want to let you all know that this is not just like a random thing, and I'm not concerned about of COVID. I haven't been working really in a year, and just trying to find the right time to kind of ease back into it. And so, I'm just very aware of that, and do not want to come off like I'm trying to do something halfway. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we'll do a couple of things. We've got a motion and a second that will certainly require additional discussion. But we've got a motion and a second to approve. I want to state for the record that the city of Augusta did not approve a voter registration drive. It did not come through Parks and Recs. And as it were, flyers can float around town, and people can say, I'm going to go to Diamond Lakes, I'm going to go to Pendleton King Park, and they can do that. These are public spaces, public facilities, and that happens all the time. So I don't want us to lay at the feet of our organization that somebody's having an event and it came through this organization, because it did not. On the other side of this, I think it's prudent for us as we move forward that as we're having this ramp up and of request and the desire to move back to some sense of normalcy in our city, that it's probably prudent, Administrator Donnelly, we certainly can talk about this offline, but now is high time for us, when we're having these requests, that they come through our event planning team, whatever that looks like, without question, because these are traditionally public spaces that Recs and Parks has some purview and responsibility for. But to the degree that we stand up the appropriate stakeholders in that event planning meeting and be a part of that team, we can address as well as what support we need from our law enforcement agency, parentheses S, close parentheses, and address all of those things at one time, as opposed to unilateral decisions being made. We have all battled and are continuing to battle through this COVID pandemic, and we will for the foreseeable future. And as such, we want to work collectively and collaboratively together as a city to include our partners and our stakeholder agencies to understand those broader concerns, but not be, again, out of place of making unilateral decisions about what can and can't happen. And ultimately, the commission is held responsible for not being able to move the city forward. And so with that, I'm going to go to the Mayor Pro Tem for a final comment, Madam Clerk, and then we're going to vote on this matter. Sure, that's Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What I would like to do is caution the commission, because we are, if we do vote to approve this, we are sanctioning an outside event that's sure to bring together a lot of people. Well, we got three teams, Josie and Cross Creek, that won the state championship, and they want to have an outside parade. So if we approve one, I'll end my comment there. Thank you.
I could not agree with you more. That's the reason why we didn't have the St. Patrick's Day parade as well. And again, I think we're in favor of it, but in our haste, let's just make sure that all of these things are in place, Commissioner from the first. And as we have a motion, maybe that motion is appropriately amended by contingent upon having all of the safety protocols and measures in place before actually conducting the event.
I didn't make the motion. Commissioner Garrett made the motion, so he would have to agree to those terms.
I think we should vote and see where everybody stands.
Voting.
Mr. Mayor, I make a substitute motion.
Voting.
Mr. Mayor, I was asking about a substitute motion.
Voting.
Breaking up. He was trying
Mr.
to
Mayor, hold on. Mr. Mayor, the substitute motion.
Everybody suspend. Commissioner, I would recognize you, but I've already called for the vote. So let's just let that proceed, and we'll find out where it ends up at. And if we need to make adjustments, let's do it at that time.
Okay, all right then, okay.
Yep.
Mr. Clark,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Franham,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sun,
No.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
No.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
No, ma'am.
That motion carries 6-4 with Mr. Sun, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Dennis Williams voting no.
Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for inquiring, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, with us approving that on the next commission meeting, I'm just gonna tell you, I'm gonna come with the ask that we have a parade for the high schools that won the state championship. You know, we may have to look at the protocols. We may have to spread the cars out 20 feet. We may have to put one person on the float or what have you. But if we're gonna approve this outside event with James Brown and so forth, and you know it's gonna draw thousands of people. So on the next agenda, you can expect me to put on there that we approve a parade for Josie and Cross Creek. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we've got two more items that are before us. Items number 37 and 27. And I don't know if there's any objections to number 37.
Yeah.
There very well could be. All right.
Yeah, that's some objection.
All right, very well. Is there any objection to taking that item and putting it on the next full commission meeting agenda?
No, let's go ahead and vote on it.
Yes. Yeah, we can finish today, Mr. Mayor. We're right at it.
All right, very good. Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item number 27.
Item 27 provided, I'm sorry, let me see. A motion to approve the facility building and grounds budget for the Craig Halton School Building.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 4th.
Thank you, sir. may I ask, who speaks to this? Is it the administrator or central services or who?
Yeah, it would be central services. I mean, I can open up if need be, but they have some requests based on DPH occupying the facility and us being able to continue services once the Board of Education cuts them off. And so Ms. Dowse is ready and prepared to discuss those items.
All right, thank you. I have my main concern here when I looked at these numbers, we're talking about basically nearly a $300,000 budget. And I'm assuming that will be to the end of this year. And that is, in my view, what are we going to be doing? Is this budget to maintain just what the school, what the Board of Health is doing there? Some of the numbers seem a little bit excessive. So could we go through this, please?
Yeah, Ms. Dowse, could you give them some insights on those numbers? I know some of those are projections to make sure that you're able to cover the costs, but I was a little surprised at the number for IT until I had an opportunity to talk to Dr. Goggins and you and Director Allen, which kind of helped me become a little more comfortable with those numbers. Could you do the kind of a similar update for Commissioner Sice and the rest of the commission?
Sure. And Commissioner, I can understand your concerns, but I would like to assure you that we've received actual costs based upon the operation of the facility when it was occupied prior to the Department of Health. We've also decreased those numbers simply because the building is not at 100% capacity. And so, for instance, the electricity usage, as well as the natural gas and the water and sewer usage, are figures as most recent as December and January. Keep in mind, we've already paid a February bill for both water as well as electricity. And the building repair and maintenance costs, along with the repair and maintenance for ground maintenance, are consistent per square footage with some of our other facilities. Because we don't yet know who all will be occupying this facility and for how long, some of these costs are estimated on the high end, but at the same time, it's as close as we could possibly get it.
Okay, and to you and the administrator, these are figures to go out through the end of this year. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I would like to point out that costs such as pest control, which is nominal, but also security services and contract building and maintenance, those are actual figures.
And where were you all looking to get this money from?
This money would be funded through, or is proposed to be funded through general contingency, general fund contingency.
And the administrator mentioned IT, but unless I don't recognize it, I don't see that on this list that's in the agenda book.
After further discussions with the Department of Health, the IT services piece is no longer needed.
Yeah, initially we were going to have to pick it up, but Dr. Goggins and his team, Board of Education will carry it through, I believe, is that April 30th, and then DPH picks it up May 1st?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I'm just highlighting that I had a briefing on all of those numbers so we could try to reduce them as much as possible.
Okay, well, I'm sort of comfortable with that. I was just and I can understand some of my estimates, but number one, it just seemed a bit high, and we'll expect it to roll on, and we can also sort of expect public health, and I'm not asking them for any money, but they will probably be in there for the rest of the year as well. Am I correct?
That is what we have estimated. I have requested a meeting with Dr. Goggins. A time and date has not been confirmed as of now, but it is good to know that the expectation is plain, that we're expecting them to be there throughout the year.
Great, because we definitely want to support the vaccination process. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank y'all.
Commissioner, would you like to make a motion while you have the floor?
Move to approve.
Second.
Voting.
Thank you.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am.
Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
and Mr. Son,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams. He's out. Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries with Mr. Bobby Williams out.
Number 29, Madam Clerk.
Item 29 is to present the preliminary financial reports for the year end December 31, 2020.
All right, let's get all right. We've got Director Williams here with us. Director Williams, if you will proceed.
Good afternoon. My agenda item today is to present the preliminary financial reports for the year ended 2020. With your agenda items, there was a packet of reports in there that go in much greater detail than I will cover on today's presentation. I'm just going to pretty much hit the high points on the funds that were covered. On this slide, as well as the next one, is simply a copy of the cover letter that was included in the packet. It's really too much information to share on this one screen, and I'm not going to run completely through it, but it is kind of a pint-sized version of that letter. If you haven't had the opportunity to review it, I would encourage you to do so. There's some useful information included. On this slide is the outline of today's discussion. We'll go through some good news. We've got some bad news that we managed to avoid. The results of this presentation are not final. Throughout 2020, I think if anything can be said about 2020 is that we adapted, and we adapted quite often. We will go through the individual funds that were covered, our normal sales tax charts, and then a few of our upcoming events that we will be addressing in the near future. So we start off with our good news. The good news, I guess the best news of all, is that we are here. And we're here to make this report, and this report, with all things considered, is a good report. We had funds with year-end surplus, and I'll go into those in detail in just a little bit further down the line, and why they had surpluses, which one normally would not have expected with some of the things that we knew were happening and during 2020 as far as finances. So the general fund ended the year. Now remember, these are all unadjusted numbers. The final numbers will be presented to you again after the audit. But as we have gone through our closeout process, the general fund ended the year with a $3.8 million surplus. Fire protection had a $2.7 million surplus, water and sewer 3.4, garbage collections a little over 800,000, Augusta Regional Airport 1.1 million, and stormwater utilities 438,000. Now, all except for the general fund and fire protection, those remaining funds on this screen are enterprise funds, and the reporting mechanism for them is a little bit different. Well, I'm going to say a little bit less straightforward to the casual user of financial reports than the general fund and fire protection. We had good news in the form of CARES Act funding. In addition to the $10.3 million, which was received by the City of Augusta for general fund for usage as phase one, which I'll go to in a little more detail a little bit later. We received funding which was restricted for use by certain areas. $4.82 million came from HUD for housing and neighborhood development, $6.42 million from FTA for transit, and $19.38 million for FFA for the Augusta Regional Airport. That was all good news for those areas. TIA, commonly also called T-SPLOST. Our collections were $835,000 more than we had budgeted, and a little over $400,000 higher than in the previous year. It is a sign of growth. So as we all know, those funds exist in a specific fund to be used for those specific uses. And for those of you who have been with me since 2014, I am happy to report that this is the final time that I will be giving you an update on the February 2014 ice storm. We received our final outstanding claim payment from FEMA in May of 2020. That last payment was a tiny bit over $1 million. And the ice storm reporting is finished and over. Next slide, please. Yes, I'm happy about that one. We avoided some bad news. I guess it doesn't fall in the category of good news, but when you don't have bad news, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. Our sales tax collections were drastically affected by the pandemic, but they were largely offset by a one-time audit adjustment from the DOR, which covered years 2015 through 18. That amount was a little over $2 million. So when we added in that $2 million to our decreased level of collections, we wound up about $1.9 million below what we had budgeted, because when we did our 2020 budget, we were coming off of a banner year in 2019 and projected growth, not knowing what was ahead of us. But the timing of that $2 million correction by the DOR was fortuitous for us. Our increased expenditure level related directly to the pandemic, which was federally required paid leave, commonly referred to as FFCRA, PPE, which we all know what that stands for now, our increased level of healthcare cost, and other assorted increased level of expenditures were largely offset by the $10.3 million in the CARES Act that we received. Next slide, please. Again, these reports are not final. They are unaudited, and they will be subject to adjustments, if any, that occur during the actual audit process. You should receive the results of that audit after its completion. We are still targeting June the 30th as our completion date, so that we don't run out that deadline and extend it on into our budget process when people tend to kind of lose interest about what happened a year and a half ago. Next slide, please. As I said before, we spent a lot of time in 2020 adapting to things that changed. We had about 70 days of what everybody used to consider normal. And then we started seeing emergency declarations from the president, the governor, and the mayor. Businesses were closed, public facilities closed, or their staffing was drastically reduced. And a lot of our employees worked in staggered shifts or remotely, as we started to feel what we now know is the pandemic known as COVID-19. Restrictions on gathering, businesses, and the levels moratoriums on evictions and utility cutoffs. Cleaning supplies, PPE, and technology items immediately became in short supply and prices went up dramatically. Next, please. So what did that mean for us financially? Well, increased operating costs due to the higher quantity and the higher price of cleaning supplies and PPE. We had a decreased income stream from utility payments, licenses, court-related transactions, recreation programs were halted. And then we talked about sales tax collections. The decrease was related to business closures, both restaurants, hotels, shift from point of sale to online purchases as people didn't go to the stores, they ordered online for home delivery if they could. We also saw immediately some decrease in consumer spending because of the level of uncertainty and a higher level of unemployment. Next, please. So on March the 27th, 2020, Congress passed the CARES Act. There were direct distributions to state and local governments with populations over 500,000. In Georgia, the state of Georgia got the direct distribution, as did Fulton, DeKalb, Gwinnett, Cobb counties, and the city of Atlanta. It was left to the individual states to decide how to make the distribution of the funds to any local governments with populations below those levels. On June the 29th, Governor Kemp announced a plan for the distribution process for the remaining governing bodies in the state of Georgia. That was phase 1, which was 30% of $1.23 billion. Augusta's share of that is $10.3 million. Phase 1. On October the 15th, 2020, governments were notified that potential income stream from CARES Act from phases 2 and 3 had been eliminated. So Augusta was looking at $10.3 million, which was appreciated and desperately needed. Next, please. I want to share with you what that $10.3 million meant to Augusta and our discussions about how that was used. The proposed column that was on the left side are items that were enumerated in about the last time I think was an October conversation. I did a presentation and most of y'all have seen this. What we expected to have to pay for out of that $10.3 million. Augusta is self-insured, so we knew there were medical expenditures headed in our direction for our employees. We passed a hazard pay policy, which covered a limited period of time, but paid those individuals that physically were required to show up for work. We knew there was going to be an increased cost from PPE and equipment. As I said, the FFCRA, we estimated that at approximately $500,000. Just as a refresher, that provided up to 2 weeks or 80 hours of paid leave for employees that were directly impacted under one of 6 reasons that were outlined in the act. They were paid either at full pay or 2/3 pay for that period of time, whether or not they had any leave accumulated. We knew that our public safety was going to experience an increased level of overtime, and we knew that it was going to affect our election expenditures. So that column, as we last talked, and I went through this, totaled up $8.7 million, leaving approximately 1.6 unallocated at that point, or we didn't have a category to put it in. As we've closed out the end of the year, the column on the right will show you a little closer to the level of expenditures that we actually incurred. Our medical expenditures, which do lag behind, this is the best information that we have as of the end of the year, were $2 million. Our hazard pay was a little over 1.4. PP&E was 1.3. The FFCRA expenditures, $617,000. Our public safety overtime did go up more than we had anticipated. Some of that was manpower shortages. It was approximately $917,000. Our election expenditures stayed at $250,000 that were allocated. Ms. Bailey did a phenomenal job of managing that, going out and finding some grants. We supplemented all of those to offset her election expenditures. Payne College received the appropriation that was approved by the commission of $1.4 million. So those actual expenditures were just under $8 million, leaving approximately 2.3 left over at the end of the year. But I need you to kind of follow on down below that line. There were discussions, and you've seen a presentation. There has been an obligation due to the complications of having a mass jury selection. The courts requested to be able to use the James Brown Arena. The costs associated with that are estimated to be about $225,000. The commission approved a refund process. Early on, there was just in early discussion, it was about elimination of all alcohol licenses. What wound up being passed was a refund process for the on-premises license and the associated fees related to that. It didn't turn out to be exactly a refund process. Some of those businesses did not pay to begin with, but to date, we have processed refunds for 105 businesses for almost $500,000. So the way that the $1 million figure that you see before you was derived is we went back to 2019 and we looked at all the revenue that came in from like-sized business, like the businesses that had the same kind of license. I probably said that wrong. And that amount would be expected to be approximately $950,000 to $1 million worth of lost revenue for the city of Augusta for 2021. We will still be incurring medical expenses related to our insureds that are impacted by COVID. So as you see up there at the top, we had estimated a total of about $3 million with the split 1.6 to 1.4. We've already spent approximately $2 million. Our claims have slowed down as I guess we've become more conscious, more careful. The vaccines have begun to be out there. We have continued to socially distance. We have seen those claims expenditures not increase at the same rate. So the estimation currently is an additional $750,000. I'll be honest with you, the $349,000 is a plug number for PPE. We are continuing to make those expenditures and will for the rest of this year. It does not seem to be a stretch of the imagination for me. If we spent $1.3 million last year, we certainly could very well spend $350,000 in the current fiscal year. The numbers that were provided to me by procurement through approximately the middle of March was approximately $85,000. Next slide, please. This is hard to read, and I'm going to go through it really quick, and I will show you the next slide, which will be a little bit better. But this, so don't strain your eyes right now. This is to give you a perspective of where we would have been without the CARES Act, and then where we wound up with the CARES Act revenue. Flip on over, Jeff, please. Okay, so this is what is a zoom in shot of what you would have seen on the previous page. Without the CARES Act funding, $10.3 million, we would have been approximately $4.3 million in a deficit position. With the CARES Act funding, Augusta wound up approximately $3.8 million in a surplus position. Now, remember, this is a snapshot of our finances at a particular point in time, 12/31/2020. That $3.8 million, if you will remember back a couple of slides, 2.3 of that is obligated. And maybe a strong term, but there is a potential claim on it because we expect those expenditures to occur. They just did not occur in the fiscal year for 2020. We expect them to happen this year. So that's what that $10.3 million did for us. It flipped us from being upside down due to decreased revenue and an increased level of expenditures to being right side up at 12/31/2020. Next one, please. Sales tax collections. These two charts are 19 and 20. As you can see, probably your eye goes immediately to April. Obviously, the red number, the red bar is 2019. The blue bar is 2020. But watch what happens as you get closer to the end of the year. September, October. October, you begin to see that our 2020 collections passed the collections of 2019, which tells us that we were beginning to get a handle on this. We're learning how to function, and we're beginning to move closer to what would have been a normal pattern, I would say. Now, in order to keep the bars from being all over the place, you'll see the little note up at the top that about the audit adjustment that we received, the $2 million. We pulled that out so that the graph did not get skewed one way or the other, so that it looked like a more normal collection, because that $2 million related to 2015 through 18, and there's no way to go back and prorate it and go back and fix those charts. We received the income in 2020, but it's not reported on this chart so that you have a more accurate picture of what happened that related to 2020. Next one, please. This chart does include the $2 million. The purple line going across the top is the average amount of collections from 2017 to 2020. A little over $38 million. The next line down, the yellow line, are the actual collections for 2020. $39.7 million. Blue line below it 2019, $39.9 million. Next slide, please. Okay. This shows month by month. It's just an expanded graph. It does get a little bit busy. The yellow line is 2020, the blue next to it is 2019, and then once again, the purple line is the average. These are monthly collections for the period 2017 through 2020. And this is a chart you guys, this is one of our go-tos. We show it to you every presentation that is made. Next one, please. The next things that we will be doing, we're into 2021, and I will owe you the results of the first quarter. Those are targeted to be reported to you on April the 27th. Unfortunately, we have to put this next item on the chart again. We're going to have to discuss streetlight funding again. We had an additional $684,000 deficit in that fund for 2020. And we've got to figure this out. We've got to take an action and address the funding level for that special revenue fund. You will get the 2020 audit results probably in early July after our audit is complete. We will start the 2021 millage rate process August or September to set the rate by which taxes are levied for the current fiscal year for bills to go out in September by the tax commissioner's office. And then we will jump into the 2022 budget process starting in July or August and finishing with the approval of the permanent budget in November. Next slide, please. This slide is simply an index to the reports that accompanied your agenda item. It's basically the same format that you have seen before with the added information about the CARES Act on page 12. Your sales tax charts are the same that are in here very closely on 13 through 15. And your open projects in SPLOST, those reports are pages 16 through 27. Do you have any questions for me? If not, I'd love for y'all just to accept this as information.
Got a question here. Mayor Pro Tem, you running things or wait a minute? Oh, I see him. It's me. I got a question.
All right, Commissioner from the 4th, State Survivor.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
A very good report to our Director of Finance, Ms. Williams. But I just want to share this with you because I will be in concert with my colleague from District 8. I just want to share with you that I will be coming to visit you. We had a major failure in our storm drain and sewer system out off of Colleen Road, and we gotta do some serious work out there. So we'll be coming to look for some of this money that was particularly in SPLOST that was related to storm water and this kind of thing. We need to figure out how to pay for this. It's going to be a very expensive project, but the issue it will become even more expensive if we don't take care of it now. So I'll be making contact with you reference that for us to have develop a path forward to take care of this very serious issue out off of Colleen Road in our sewer basin out there. I just want to make that comment and say thanks for a great report.
Thank you, sir.
Not sewer. I said stormwater, not sewer.
No, it's both out there. They're both together.
Did they both? Okay.
Thank
you. Go ahead, Commissioner Sines.
No. My colleague and I we're going to get together on it. I'm good.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, Director Williams, thank you for the presentation. I don't see any other hands. Administrator Donald, you got anything to add to this?
No, I do think Ms. Williams gave a pretty detailed report. There are some items I've asked her to provide an updated report from my office that we'll get on a more frequent basis, as well as looking at how those costs that we expected in 20 pour into 21, those deficits. So we'll make sure that that information is provided to the commission as well. So we're on track for those items.
Very well. Thank you very much. Thank you both. All right. We'll receive this as information without objection. I believe that brings us to one final matter that's before us. And that's number 37.
37.
Item 37,
Yes.
the Richmond County Board of
Madam Clerk, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Let's suspend for a moment. We're going to bring Ms. Rookert in, Madam Clerk, and we're going to go back to the recognition matter.
Mr. Mayor, we got one item here. Why don't we finish this one item?
Yeah, well, we did this before where we didn't give Ms. Rookert an opportunity to recognize our employees. That's a very important part of our role. You just had a conversation earlier about how we can rapidly recognize individuals. So we'll pause. You got that one more item on the agenda, but this was the first item on the agenda. So we'll do that. Ms. Rookert, we're here. And Madam Clerk, you can read the caption.
Congratulations, recognition of our March 2021 Years of Service recipients.
Good afternoon, Mayor Davis, Commissioners, Administrator, and Madam Clerk. Thank you so much for this opportunity today to share with you our March years of service. Today, we will be recognizing, we have 12 employees who celebrate 5 to 20 years of service with Augusta. Today, it gives me esteemed pleasure to recognize employees from 25 to 50 years of service for the month of March. The total years of service and institutional knowledge being celebrated today is 190 years. Jeff, if you would, as I call their names, you can add them to the screen. Mr. Fred Oakman, 25 years with engineering. Jerry Ann Thompson, 25 years with the Sheriff's Department. Robert Bryant, 25 years with the Sheriff's Department. Sharon Bennett, 25 years with the Fire Department. Octavius Reeves, 25 years with Parks and Recs. Susan Epps, 30 years with the Sheriff's Office. And finally, Deborah Friedman, 35 years in information technology. Congratulations to all of our years of service recipients. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rookert, and to the employees of the month for March. Thank you for your service to the city and your tenure here. We are appreciative. You're what makes Augusta the great city that she is. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk.
Item 37, the Richmond County Board of Assessors requests the reappointment of Mr. William D. Lee and Mr. Henry F. Middleton for a 4-year term beginning April 25th, 2021, ending April 24th, 2025.
Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 8th.
With these appointments, I want to open the floor for nominations for the District 10 appointment, and I want to nominate Ms. Maura Dial.
Second.
I second.
Second.
Nominations, yeah, they don't need seconds.
What seat is that?
Hold on, everybody, hold on. All right, so because this item has been placed on the agenda, I'm assuming this, Madam Clerk, comes at the request of the Board of Assessors themselves, requesting reappointment. Is that not true?
Yeah, they're putting it on,
Okay.
asking the commission to consider reappointment of these two nominees.
All right, very well.
Of these two
That's what
persons.
that's what I understood as well. The commissioner from the 8th has said, let's open the floor for nominations. We've got one nominee, Mara Dial. All right, Chair will entertain any additional nominees.
Got my hand up.
All right, Commissioner from the 4th.
Also, I appreciate the nomination from my colleague for the 8th, and that is for that particular Super District 10. I would also like to support and nominate Mr. Middleton again for the District 9 Super District area.
Second.
Make a motion nomination be closed.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, we've got two nominees, Ms. Mara Dial for the District 10 post and Henry Middleton for the District 9 post. Nominations, as a motion for the nominations be closed with a proper second. All right, without any objection, Madam Clerk, back to you.
Mr. Clark,
Yes.
Mr. Franum,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Garrett,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Son,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. McKnight,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Scott,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Sias,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bobby Williams,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Dennis Williams.
Yes, ma'am.
That motion carries with Ms. Dial and Mr. Middleton for a 4-year term on the Board of Tax Assessors beginning April 25th, 2021, ending April 24th, 2025.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to take a moment and thank Mr. Bill Lee for his service on the Tax Assessor Board, over 25 years on that board, current chairman, and I just appreciate all that he did for this community. Mr. Bill Lee, just want to say that publicly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I concur.
Likewise.
Madam Clerk, unless,
Mr. Mayor?
all right, Commissioner from the 10th, State Inquiry.
Yes, sir. I have one thing I'd like to remind everybody about. On April the 15th, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., there will be a vaccine clinic sponsored at the Daniel Field Airport.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
And thank you, sir.
All right. Madam Clerk, unless you have a rabbit in the hat and some additional business before us, I would like to
That's it for
adjourn.
me. No magic tricks.
Yeah, I gotta go change the diapers.
Tricks are for kids.
Ms. Bone,